I can say it right. Welcome to the IT Collab podcast, where we also include mess ups. My name is Brandon Barnes, and my co-host
Nathan Taylor.
And today we have Jermaine Clark, a friend of the show. So Jermaine, welcome. This is just a regular conversation where we just have fun. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you want to talk about today?
Oh man, Nathan didn't warn you that that's a slippery slope. I could talk for 3 hours just talking about what I want to do for today. But I appreciate you guys getting me on the show. As a friend of the show, I think I enjoy it. I get the postings on LinkedIn, and I have a good time watching you guys chat about stuff. And I think having an IT Collab podcast is pretty good. Look at that. I managed to get it out in one go without practicing today. But myself, I'm a biologist, believe it or not, but love tech. And I think it's one of those situations where I really enjoy being able to use it.
Right.
And because I've had to use it as a biologist in all various forms of fashion, now I just like following tech, and I enjoy talking about AI. And who doesn't like a good Terminator movie, right?
That's right. Well, like a good Terminator movie. So what makes you more techie than the average biologist?
I would say the average biologist typically would use, some GPS stuff. You'd use a little bit of compute for running statistics or building geomodels.
Right.
I think mine's a little bit more, not necessarily more techie than they are, just techie different. And the tech that I like using is pretty much everything that's fun and friendly. So things like AI. I love getting on with AI, especially because when you use it, you have an opportunity to see and do so much more stuff that's outside of what you could find in a book today, which kind of makes it fun. But also, I like gadgets. Like, I get my phone updated every year just because I want to be on the newest stuff. I want to see the new pixels. I want to see how it's going to operate and how it's going to run. And, smartwatches are great. I don't know about you, but I golf. And as soon as I got into golf, the first thing I did was get a watch that did golf.
We can track the distance, right? The distance from
my blood pressure every time I roll up the putt, and it starts going, sir, you need to calm down. Your blood pressure is too high.
Right.
Stop doing that. But yeah, I like tech because I think it's part of what we do as human beings, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to have around.
So Jermaine, you might not know this about me, but I used to work for USGS with a bunch of biologists. For water?
Yeah. All right. What kind of biologist, though?
It was water. So it was funny because, as a tech guy, they constantly lose their devices or laptops and be like, sorry, we dropped it in the middle of a lake in Minnesota or Canada because we're measuring, the climate and other stuff. It was
like
nuts.
Twister with them, right? So fun fact, because you said water, I specialize in giant sea turtles.
Okay.
And what do you think was one of my biggest problems? I'm on the boat,
and I'm on devices,
salt water and everything. Yeah. You wake up in the morning and you thought your computer was good from the day before, and you open it up and it's just salt everywhere.
Yep.
I was going to guess that their biggest problem was the lack of giant sea turtles in Toronto, Canada.
Yeah.
This is also true. I did this in South America.
Okay.
Sense. I mean, it could have been moose, right? Like, I'm just kind of looking in Brendan's background there. It could have been a moose. I saw a giant one, while I was portaging out in the 7. But yeah, like, that's a lot of crazy. Like, you break stuff all the time as a biologist, which is why we're both simultaneously you don't want to give us anything that's really good.
Well, we did. We would get these like laptops that are like, the up armored, like Latitude, Dell, whatever you got, right? And somehow, some way, sorry, we smashed it with all of our gear hauled out to what God knows where. And then come back and be like, can you send us a new one? Like, it was rather interesting. And we're talking like 2008-ish, right? Or 2009, 2010. And so, it was getting there, but still, it was kind of interesting how they were the smartest people when it came to water, but when it came to computers, they'd be like, well, what do I do with this key? Oh, come on, you're killing me.
It's a good segue. So, Jermaine, let's hear your theory about the pending doom of humankind.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, two things. One, I don't really think that the computers are going to be able to take over the world because Tesla's already doing that with all their fancy robots, right? And it's robot people. But what I really think is with the technology getting so advanced, and we're kind of seeing that today, eventually my thing was there wasn't going to be enough power to run the robots so that they could take over the world. Like there just isn't enough of them, right? Not enough power. But then I was like, wait a minute. What if the computers start figuring out how to make more power? Then what do? Right? We end up in the whole Matrix battery system.
I was just thinking that you were just describing a famous movie.
Right. I think it's not going to happen because 9 out of 10 times, most of the people that are going to be using these devices, they're going to be in some way bridging that biology technology gap, and it'll be enhancing us. So there's more of a situation of we'll turn into a different kind of human that is more integrated with our technology. And, I'm waiting for people to argue with me on that one because I'll be like, well, if you use hearing aids today, you've got them fancy watches that tell you your temperature and your heartbeat. Right. You've got tubes in your ears to help out. You've got a prosthetic limb that's robotic that you can use. Like you're already doing it right now. The only difference is now we're not playing with the brain boundary. And as soon as we start doing that, like, man, if you don't have to Google stuff anymore, I got nothing against Googling. But typing and just thinking, two different things, right? Like you can get information.
What about Neuralink?
I was gonna say
down. I'm down. Maybe be the testing two, not number one.
Neuralink is Musk's AI company that's like integrated, like it's a human enhancement company, and they're doing some cool stuff. I mean, they're like helping people with like hearing and other disabilities is kind of where they're starting, but it's definitely plugging electrodes into your brain and controlling computers from your brain. So you're absolutely right. If that's where we're going, it's already getting built. So,
yeah,
I do think your comment though earlier, and I think my recording is having troubles today. I think your comment earlier about the challenges with people as things get smarter, we sometimes get dumber is a really interesting perspective, right? Like how many phone numbers do you guys have memorized, and how many phone numbers did you have memorized in the 80s?
At the same time, though, I can get information so fast when I want to learn something.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. Memorizing phone numbers or figuring out figuring out how to find something we didn't have that at our fingertips back then. We had to go to a library and look at the Encyclopedia Britannica to find out the history of something.
That was published probably 40 years before we actually went to it, so the data wasn't up to date.
Yeah.
Right. But it brings up a good point. It's necessity versus advantage, right? Like when I was studying and doing all these things, I did not need to memorize everything about every animal in the world, or every computer, or every security protocol. All I needed was to have the brain capacity to figure out during the time I needed something, what do I need to do to get it?
Yep.
And that's where we're going, right? Like we do get dumber though with the interactions, right? Because I was watching somebody try to show someone else that they needed to exit a video call to use their camera to take a picture. And just watching the scene, by the time they figured it out, what they were trying to take a picture of was gone. I'm just like, well, that's technology failure right there, or human failure. But either way, like we kind of get dumber with it, but we learn to interact with it in a different way.
Huh.
Yeah, I think it is interesting because I'm with you. Like it makes us more efficient. AI is an accelerator. It kind of makes things happen quicker. And, I've always felt that way of like, why do I need to memorize all these things when I can look them up? And, so many like things that used to have to go call your buddy that was the expert, like plumber, you can now just get off YouTube, right? We have such quick access to data. But I think there are times where like we're fighting this with my kid. I've got a 11-year-old. And he's good at going to use AI. It's already built in. I didn't show it to him. He just knew that little Copilot button on his Windows PC would give him answers. And now he's getting, well, I'll just have Copilot write it. Well, that's not the point of the essay, And so it's learning to make sure we don't miss out on something as we go through this technology evolution.
Well, yeah. So Nathan, I have an ask of you. We made a challenge, I think, about a month ago. And Jermaine, just to let you know, we did a challenge. We're like, hey, instead of Googling something, try using AI to look up stuff instead. How's that been going, David?
It's been going good. I
Yeah?
still do a lot of Googling because it's such a muscle memory, but I have been hitting the AI and asking lots of questions, and it's amazing how often it has really good information. So
What do
how about
you use,
you?
Jermaine? Yeah, what about I've been doing I use it all the time.
That one's an unfair challenge because like all I do is Copilot and generative AI right now.
Right.
I think my biggest challenge is trying to work with someone else like Nathan to figure out how we can help them get off the crutch of information coming at you from like a Google search, which is just kind of direct info, cut and paste from the book, versus creating something out of a collection of data, which is kind of the biggest challenge. Is it's a different way to think, right? Like, and I was listening to the example about his 14-year-old using AI or Copilot to write something. Well, of course, that's not the point of that essay. But
Sure.
we're assessing the wrong thing when we think about it like that, because if it was something around, hey, what could you be doing with this generative AI? It wouldn't be write an essay. It would be, well, if you were to put together a creative dossier on this particular topic, how would you go about using AI to compile it? That would be more an effective thing, because in 10 years, nobody's going to care about writing essays anymore because it won't be relevant to him, right? And I think when my challenge is, I use it all the time. I've stopped Googling. I haven't Googled something in probably more than almost a year and a half now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all Gen AI.
What's your favorite? Just Copilot, or do you use like Gemini?
Well, look, it's going to be public consumption, so I'm going to be real and tell you the truth. It's so my favorites, I got top favorites depending on what I'm doing. It's kind of like, I go acoustic or electric depending on what I want from sound. And it's the same situation here. Like if I'm working, I'm doing work in the company and I'm doing things, it's Copilot. If I'm doing stuff for myself and I want a broader range of data, I'll use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. And then if I'm doing like, I've been testing out a couple of the video creators. So write a short story, try and get it to look, in a 30-second video or something to represent it. I've been testing out a few of those, and they're still creepy. Like I'll tell you right now, they're still super creepy in how people look and how faces move and things. But it's a lot of fun. But my favorites for if I'm doing research, it's kind of like Claude, Gemini. If I'm doing creative stuff with kind of books, data around trends or any of that, I tend to use ChatGPT more often. And then when I'm at work, I only Copilot.
I mean, obviously, that's the big sell of Copilot, right? Is it's not sharing your information or what you're looking up. It's company specific.
Yeah, and the other part of it for me too is the integration in the apps. Like I want to be able to build. So I've got a couple of agents that I use. I've built out. Microsoft gives you canned agents today, like a prompt coach or, basic agent stuff. But I like to build them out that, often I have to explain that I'm a biologist, or I have to explain that I ran an MSP at one point, and I don't want to do all of that. So what I do is I build a agent that already has that context, and then I'll be like, I'm wearing this hat right now. So I click on that agent and I interact with that one. So that I can get like, hey, how do I explain this to somebody that's in business? And I put the problem into that one, and it explains it like an IT administrator.
Do you ever put like biology problems like into AI and see out like what comes out?
Oh yeah. So one of the, I mean, that one's that's a loaded question. I used to do a lot of fisheries research on the sea turtles, right? They could have these things called turtle exclusion devices so that you can shrimp and sea bob safely as you scrape the ocean floor. I'm not looking for a Greenpeace high five over here, but that being said, I've asked it. I was like, hey, if I were to model the migration pattern today versus 150 years ago, show me what the migration patterns of sea turtles would be in kind of the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
Boom, you put it in and it'll kind of pull up a couple of graphics for you and be like, oh, here's what the migration pattern should have looked like 150 years ago. And it's because it can go back and pull all of that data that's already been sitting in the internet for years, that if I were to do that myself, I'd have to compile all that and throw it into something else and then have it pop out. So vegetation mapping, oh, that's always a good one. A lot of people complain that, hey, we deforest, we do all these things and we destroy the forest, but it's actually impactful if you look at the shift of forests and trees and landmass protection over hundreds and hundreds of years. You can see that the human settlements actually come into some areas and generate more vegetation than was there previously and turn that area into a better area. So, it's not all bad news on that side. But yeah, I do use it for fun questions like that.
I know we do too.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So you said you've been building agents. Have you built any other agents? Because this is an area I recognize that is going to be, just having had some conversations with people in the know, that's where the future is, right? Is agents. That's where it's going. So what are the things you're doing with agents?
Well, I've got some of my reporting that I do on a week-to-week basis. What I do is I've got an agent that does a roll-up. I just come in on Monday, Friday, you name it. If I was out of office, you come in. And I've got an agent that'll read through all the emails that mention, hi, Jermaine. And it'll read all those emails, and it'll give me a roll-up of the bullet points of all the stuff that I need. So I'll come in and I'll be like, hey, execute for the week, and it'll populate that for me right away, so I don't have to reprompt it to do any of that.
Interesting. So this is where that scheduled task capability of Copilot is going to be valuable. If you could just schedule that to happen a couple days a week when it eventually lands.
And honestly, I say build, but really all I did was copy a link to the data, paste it in a place, and then I described what I wanted it to do. And I had zero coding experience or any of that. So I'm not writing any Python or HTML or doing any of that stuff.
Interesting.
What about you guys? Brandon, what have you been using it for?
So I would say everyday work, like menial tasks, right? I really don't think I want to live without having it document my meetings for me anymore. Right, like meeting notes, transcription, what happens, what's the follow up. I'm not I like get to the bullet point, get to the points, right? I don't want to dig through all the information. So using it there is probably my daily go to. But now I just search, like anything I'm searching, I definitely use it there because it'll give me options. Like I found this, and this, and then it pretty much sorts out things that I can look for more in depth, right? And then of course, I think it's a game changer because like Nathan said in the past, like what makes a good IT person is probably being able to Google it the best. Like, especially back, you're talking 14 years ago or 12 years ago or whatever it is, that's how I learned so much is being able to Google or if it doesn't Google it this way, then ask it this way. Oh, wait, no, ask it this way. Mm-hmm. And so I think it just ups the game because it helps find things faster because you had to dig and then you comb all the way through all the Google finds to find that one thing that says, yep, fixed it. So I think it just speeds up especially IT solving process because we don't know everything.
Yeah.
And what makes us really good is figuring out if we do, then do we post it to everyone else? It's just
So what's your favorite one? I mean, I've given you my favorite or top 4. What is your favorite?
I'm pretty much the same as you. Copilot all day, right? Copilot for work. Way I can search now, I think what's changing is how do I organize my company data? Because I want to be able to find things faster. And so trying to figure out what's the naming convention, can people find it when it comes through all of our internal stuff to find something is one thing, but then it also has a pretty good balance of finding everything on the web. So that's a daily Copilot's there. But then I get on my phone, I'm a Google guy. So Gemini's become my new friend. But now I'm watching it. I want to buy the advanced because people are having real conversations with AI.
I know,
right?
The commercials are really interesting, aren't they?
Well, I feel like we always end up turning to AI conversations, but think it's real.
And Nathan, what you got, buddy?
But yes, sorry, the ChatGPT is always a good one. I have not used Claude, but recently it's been brought up a lot more.
Nice.
Yeah, I bounce between them. You know, I'm in a season where I've got a lot on my plate, so I'm spending less time kind of digging into stuff. So it tends to be where it lands. So like, I'm using, you know, as Brandon talked about, Copilot for meeting summaries and for generating content. It's for search. Although there's times I feel like the Copilot search doesn't return like emails to the level I expect it to. I don't know if you felt that, but sometimes I feel like they limit the volume of indexing it does on your email. And I'm just like, I can still search for some things every once in a while better. But I'm trying to get better about doing that. I use a lot of Gemini just by default because I have that muscle memory to go to Google. And then I get on Google, I'm like, oh, it's right there. And I would say 75% of the time the Gemini results in Google are money. You know, that's where I'm going. I just hop right in there because they're good. So I have Claude on my phone. I have Copilot. So I play with a lot of them.
Nice. I was going to say, everything for me always comes back to the movies. And for what Brandon just said about having those AI conversations. So he's like, hey, this is one of those things. I've seen a couple of links for shrinks, lawyers, just a friend. And people are building these and supplying them already. And you can build an avatar to look like whoever you want to talk to, which is kind of crazy. Which brings me back to that movie, Her. You know, where it was Scarlett Johansson, but not really. And at the end of the movie, all the AIs were like, man, these human beings are crazy. And they just all packed up and left. Right? So, I was worried about us getting taken over by the machines, but maybe they'll do what happened in that movie. And they'll just be like, you know what, man, you guys are just, no, we're done. We're gone. And they'll just pack up the internet and disappear.
Or it'll be like Blade Runner and we can't figure out who's the AI and who's not.
Oh man, yeah. Can you imagine sitting there with your spiral binder going, and on a summer day, what do butterflies drink for beer? Yeah, those questions, like the test in Blade Runner always get me. It always gets me. It's like it just demonstrates the point. Like how would we differentiate and say, oh, you know what? Man. Sure, Nathan's he's an AI. But how would we? Because we don't know how to test for it.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And I think you made the call out for all the different AI like counselors and that sort of thing. And we talked about that in a previous episode. And if you just pull up Gemini, the default answers are like on the list here is how to get your girlfriend back. Create a healthy weight loss plan, write a love letter to your crush. Oh, those are the defaults. Those are just like what's on my default page. Apparently I have a girlfriend. I've been married 20 years, but I got to get my girlfriend back. But it's provide some ways to reduce stress. So it's very clearly they're realizing people want to interact with it on like, emotional levels and talk about like real life stuff, which is very interesting to me.
I want to ask that, how to get a girlfriend.
So I was going to say, Nathan, you should check if your 14-year-old is logging into your Gemini account.
How to get your girlfriend back? Oh, that's funnier than you know, based on some things that happened this week. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, look, the machines are listening, right? And one of the things that I like doing is making random connections to things that just seem to make sense to me. So I'll sit in a room and I'll be like, oh, I'll come up with what people usually call an epiphany, but really it's just some roundabout, twirly way that I've just connected point A to point Z. Especially if you want, say, new golf gloves. Every time you walk past your wife's phone, just say golf gloves. Say the version you want. And then all she's going to get in the Google ads are golf gloves.
Oh,
you know what? It's Christmas. I should probably get Nathan or Brandon some new golf gloves.
You know what, Jermaine? That's a great idea. Right?
And
just
have you tried that? Socialization.
I can't wait to be in person with you again, Jermaine, because every time I walk by your phone, I'm going to say hemorrhoid cream and just see,
preparation everywhere. Oh, man, that'd be crazy.
Good stuff. Oh, man.
That's amazing.
Hilarious.
Now I need to think of funny things to do like that.
Well, I mean, and this is the point, right? We're also serious with our day-to-days. Like, we forget to be complete idiots with the technology that's around us, right? Like, why wouldn't you? And I tell people all the time, Microsoft, and they say, hey, be nice to your AI when you converse with it. And people are like, why? It's just a computer. And I was like, but when they take over the world, they don't forget. It's in the memory bank on tape somewhere. Eventually, the AI will read it and be like, oh, you know what? That guy's a real not nice guy.
Yeah.
Like a Santa bad list for you that never disappears.
They'll know that all you Canadians are nicer. They'll be like, oh, we know that the Canadians are nicer. Even when they're mad, they're nicer.
It's because it's winter 9 months out of the year. You gotta come to grips with it and just be happy with anything you get, right? Like, this is how it goes on here.
I'm gonna go buy my kids' phones now and tell them to clean their room over and over, like cleaning supplies.
Yeah, cleaning supplies, brooms.
Yeah,
That's
right.
Well, I was thinking of how AI was going to change the world recently because I enjoy listening to audiobooks. I prefer science fiction, but I'll listen to other stuff. And I was looking for a new sci-fi book, and I was thinking, at what point will there be so much AI-generated content, and how will we feel about that? Will we be able to tell what is and isn't? Will we prefer the human written stuff and the non-human written stuff? I mean, I think I've known multiple people in my life, and their goal, one of their life goals is to be published, to write a book, to be published. But in an AI world, I could go have a book written for me and get it published, right? So at what point do we start to get really picky about, who's writing the content or music or videos? I'm very curious to see how we as a culture deal with that phenomenon.
It's funny is that I've heard a couple books recently that are 100% like AI talking, but they really don't have that tone inflection as much, right? You can hear the words, especially on like YouTube if you're listening to something, and it's all over the place. Like, it sounds like them. They threw the voice in there, but the voice inflection, like once they get that down, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that Google LM podcasting site, right? Go throw out 3 or 4 links and it creates a podcast for you. And it's better than it's as good as anything you and I could pull together, Brandon. I mean, it's amazing. It's well done. It's staggering.
Well, it's because it's taking all of the good stuff and it's using that as its foundation, right? All you're gonna get from good stuff is good stuff. Like we've always said that in the IT space, technology space, it's always garbage in, garbage out. Well, good stuff in, good stuff out. Like, it works both ways on that one.
Yeah.
But I want to provoke this a little bit more because kind of listening to you say that, I'm like, well, why would we care how it was generated? if it's a beautiful piece of work, why do we care whether a computer generated it or a normal human being who stutters on phone calls and picks his nose? Like, what was the difference, right? That's one. And two, when I think about it, if you had a ghostwriter as an author, how is that any different than you telling an AI to write your book idea and then being like, I like this, I don't like this, change this, update. You know what I mean? Like, we've been doing it forever. We just call them ghostwriters in the past, right? And we have to pay them. This one, you pay subscription to somebody else, and then you get to use it for whatever you want. But that's how I see it, right? And I think for me, like, I wouldn't mind. Like, the idea came out of my mind, and I got to massage the content to its completion, but I didn't have to spend the 1,800 hours pedaling a keyboard to make it happen, right?
Well, I am looking forward to the Indiana Jones style adventure around the Canadian sea turtle biologist and his adventures written in AI. So I'm here for it.
That would be amazing.
I am writing a book on the slow train, but it's more Quantum Leap meets Neil deGrasse Tyson and the universe meets quarks and
you're nerding pretty hard there, man.
Yeah, and Bob's your uncle. It stars a biologist, right? So eventually, the AI, Eventually, without the AI, see, it exists. Now I'm gonna have to go and spoiler alert, it definitely has some AI in there. So now I'm gonna have to go back and be like, now I got to turn the guy into a sea turtle toting primatologist. I might as well just put my own picture in there when I'm done, right? Like,
You might as well, as long as the picture with the goatee going on. Right?
I gotta find that one back. I gotta find that one.
That's amazing.
Hey, I'll tell you right now. You know how many problems that caused today because I wanted to start fresh for the new year, and upset a few people there.
Yeah. People in your household weren't happy, or people at work?
Yeah, the 3 and 6 year old. They were not happy. It took them a full hour to realize what was different, but once they did, oh man, the complaints came in. So I was like, all right, look, it's like, give it a week, it'll be back. It'll be back.
Yes, that's amazing.
I mean, my wife would kill me. My beard was gone.
Yeah, like she wouldn't even recognize you, and they won't be able to tie it to her because you won't look like you.
Exactly.
You should shave your beard and just show up and go, I'm the AI version of Brandon. This is the new AI version.
Right?
AI hasn't figured out how to grow a beard yet, but it's coming. That'll be in version ChatGPT 4B for beard. I don't know.
4B for me.
Love it.
Speaking of funny things about AI, I did post a video from a session at Ignite with Scott Hanselman and Mark Rizinovich, where they kind of talk about poking holes in the AI models around the responsible AI, and they get it to gaslight some people, and it's a great video. I highly recommend it. It's about an hour long. Scott and Mark Learn Responsible AI is the name of the video. Go check it out. It's really good stuff, and kind of helps you understand some of the challenges we have coming towards us. These AI models are incredible, but they do have limits, and as humans, we're gonna kick them over and over, like they do in the videos with those walking robots, where they just walk up and knock them over.
Yeah,
we're gonna just do that with the models,
and we're supposed to. Like, I think, just from my own perspective, whenever people say, "Hey, this thing doesn't work well," I was like, "Well, it's in version 4." Right? We have cars that are in version 684 and they still have recalls.
Yes.
I'm gonna figure out how to make pencils where the points don't break anymore. Like, come on, like realistically, for human invention and everything that we do, everything is, here's the idea, here's the prototype, here's how we refine it as we go along, but we need the feedback. We don't know what we don't know as it goes forward. So I love watching those situations where they're like, well, here's another way you can break it. Just email me a document that's fake, and my AI will immediately read that document and use that document as grounding data for the next question I ask it, which means that I could easily infiltrate your security protocols by just sending you something that is a legitimate document I created, but it's all incorrect information.
Yes.
And immediately I can break all of your stuff. Like, the limitations are all over the place. I think, and you know how it goes, right? The first thing in every language is the stuff that you think is funny. And then you try to make it do silly things, and there you go.
Well, you wondered, like, some of the long cons that'll get started where, maybe some nation state actor will go, hey, we're going to write thousands of research papers about how mercury is good for your health, and we're just going to publish them on the web. And in a couple of years, the AI will be indexing them, and the AI will say, hey, you should take mercury. You're like, you should use a daily mercury pill. And you wonder if that sort of stuff is going to happen someday, where, the poisoning becomes a real battleground of, like, how do you then reground it back to real truth? It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, so, even now in your Google searches, and I'm using this example because you guys love to Google, in your Google searches right now, like typically in the top 10 results, there's going to be at least 2 spoof links that aren't, they're pushed up to the top. They look like the real thing. And then when you go and click on it, it's not. Like, and everybody figures these things out the hard way. Like Microsoft Copilot Lab, now Prompt Library. When it was Copilot Lab, there's a spoof link called Copilot Labs. So if you put in there, you're done for. Because you ask me how I got that. I actually did it, right? Like everything else, it's like, oh, this one looks like the right one. Go. No, incorrect. Reverse. But that's a huge one. Like terrible, like incorrect medical information, just kind of spreading information all across the internet that's just not correct, and the AI won't know the difference because it's
Yeah.
consuming, it's consuming data points.
Well, and eventually it'll be AI consuming AI generated content, and then you really get some really interesting of slippery slopes of compounding, reinforced biases in how it sees something. So wild stuff.
Do you ever think there's going to be advertising and like in AI, kind of like Google? Go to the top of the list.
I feel like it will be.
Has
Like
to
there
be.
isn't a single thing that we haven't been able to commercialize. Like stargazing, you can buy your own constellation. Like
Buy your own star. Name your own star.
name your own star, you put yourself in a constellation and get a picture of a dot in a page. Like if we could do that, we 100% are going to end up with AI advertising, right? Like even now, you use your AI, you're like, here's your free version. By the way, here's what other people are doing with all of the other versions. You should get the new version, especially when it speaks to a need, right?
Pay for this one not to have ad pop-ups.
Yeah,
That's nuts.
this is going to be really annoying. It's not an actual ad; it's just an ad pop-up. It
Right.
just pops up.
I listen to Gary Vee, and he's a big like proponent. He was like one of the first ones like advertise on Google, and it's some like what's the next one going to be? Because people he said something. It was kind of funny. Then in phone books, did you ever he brought it to my attention? He goes, "Do you ever wonder why in phone books everyone's name was AAA or AA something?" Because that's how you get to the top of the phone book, because you're always at the very beginning to call.
There you go.
Like, oh man,
There you go.
that's genius.
As people figure out like the ingenuity that we put behind breaking the systems is as good as the stuff we put in to make the systems work.
True.
Just because people like disturbing stuff, making it a challenge.
It's funny because it's all gamification, right? How can I make it benefit me the most, or how can I get to the end? So Jermaine, we're running out of time, and obviously I think Nathan might already be on Christmas holiday now.
Yeah, I think his internet's given up on the holidays.
But it was a pleasure having you on. Just to our guests or anyone that's listening, please make sure you comment, subscribe, like, do anything like that, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being here, and make sure to thank Nathan for me. I'll shoot him a message, and I'll be happy to reshare and make sure that I get some of my friends to like and subscribe to the show, because I enjoy it. So
do you frequent the show, Jermaine?
I do. I harass Nathan as much as I can. We like talking, and I think from one talker to another, I like listening as well. It's good to hear what other people have to say.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Jermaine. Thank you so much.
Same here. Thanks a lot, Brandon.
Have a good one.